coming to the stage, it's Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. Hey everyone. That's how high tech we are. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. And by we, I mean me, where I have to give my own random stadium introductions. I hope that all of you are well. And more importantly, I hope that everything is working. So if you could bear with me for just a moment, I want to double check that things are working for us here and that I can go out and I can also make sure everyone's aware of the stream that is available and ready to go. And I want to let the world know that this is all happening, seeing how I wasn't necessarily planning on this. And it was something that I ultimately just put together in the last hour or so. And once everything seems to be up and running, I can maybe get some kind of confirmation that my audio and video is working for you guys just fine. I feel like it should be. If you can confirm that it is, then I will try to keep moving forward for you guys. Looks like we've got a few people that have already jumped on. So somebody, if you could, maybe in the YouTube comments, give me a little alert or a heads up that you're telling me that the audio and that the video, can't do much about the looks, but the audio and the video is working for you guys. And you should be able to log in. And Rock, I didn't see you, Rock. Are you here? And I know that sounds like a silly question, but I honestly don't know. I walked past hole 4 today and I didn't get a chance to walk over there to see if you were there. So if you are here, that means tomorrow I'm going to hunt you down and I'm going to break all protocol and give you a hug, maybe. All right, looks like people are joining in. And right off the bat, as always, this is a one-man show trying to get a few things up and running. I'm all alone at the controls, doing everything that I can. So hopefully everything is working and looks just fine. Hopefully the internet is working all right. And hopefully the audio and the video is doing just fine. It's Johnny V. Johnny, you got to learn how to run these controls for me. Seeing how you say that you can see and hear me and that I don't, wondering if I talk enough. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. So if you guys could maybe share the link and let everyone else know that you're here watching some USDGC recap. I cannot promise how long this is going to go, what I'm going to cover, but I want to try and get to it and yeah, recap what we saw today. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to do my best to watch the comments. As you can see, every time I maneuver something or other around on the screen, you also may see a little glitch of the, a little bit of a glitch in the lighting or whatever the case might be. What I want to do though is start with the FPO and the Women's National Championship. I want to just go over a few things that we saw today. And by we, I'm going to collectively say, of course, Jamie Thomas and myself, who were bringing you the bonus Inside the Winthrop Arena show that's been hosted on Disc Golf Network. We're going to continue to do that all 3 remaining days. That takes place just as the women are coming in, usually around hole 15 or 16. We kind of recap what we see from the Women's National Championship, and then we also then kind of project and analyze and talk about what we're going to see for the men's round for the USDGC that then gets kicked off with the lead or the feature card, which goes off a little bit later in the day. And then at the end of the day, then we come back to you and we recap what we saw on the men's side. So that's kind of the format that's been happening. And then of course, I hope or encourage or assume that so many of you guys also were out there today and participating in the USDGC Live that was being offered via Fulcrum Media along with the USDGC. All right. So Johnny V says, how about the scoreboard? That's funny you say that, Johnny, because somebody's going to have to let me know. It does say that I can share my screen on this program that I use, and it's not nearly as fancy as a screen or a program that Johnny and the rest of the control people use. But somebody's going to have to let me know, because if it's letting me share my screen right now, that would be incredible, because I'm looking at it and it looks like it says that it's sharing it. And honestly, I'm just gonna have to wait for a moment or two to see if it's doing just that, because if it is, that's gonna be a game changer. but I'm sorry. Darn it. I don't know that it is or not. All right. What I'm looking at on my screen, which probably isn't doing anything for you like I wish it was, is the round today by our FPO division. I'm going to get into it. Our lead card, let's start there. Just the lead card that we're going to see tomorrow morning that they're going to be teeing off. I'll give you the exact time. They're going to be teeing off at what appears to be 9:45 tomorrow. All right, so that's a start. But what we're seeing for the lead card right now, Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, Heather Young, and Missy Gannon. If you've been following the FPO side of golf this year at all, I can't assume you would be surprised by that. I can't imagine that you would be. I don't know. If so, I'm not sure why, because Paige, of course, has had a phenomenal year. Katrina's had a phenomenal year. Heather Young has been kind of this new up-and-comer that we were introduced to last year at Idlewild. She went on to win the Disc Golf Pro Tour Virtual Putting Invitational. She has had some other really solid performances. We've seen her on the lead card, on feature card, a prodigy in more ways than one. So Heather Young is in third place right now. And then Missy Gannon, I was just saying the other day that this is a course or a place where I expect to see Missy maybe kind of reemerge. I feel like the last few events, she hasn't been playing up to her own capabilities. And this week here at the the Women's National Championships, I just feel like this is a place where I could see her getting comfortable, really trying to cash in on any long range putts that she might be, that might be in front of her. And I could really see Missy picking things up and doing well. In fact, as I was leaving the course today, she was walking back up toward where hole 1 is, and maybe they were just on a walk around the lake, or maybe she was going to try and dial in a few holes. I'm not sure exactly what her game plan was, but at 6 o'clock or so, that's where I saw her headed. So I'm guessing that maybe she's going to go try and dial something in, possibly on holes 1 or 2 or 3, 1, 2, or 3 with the direction that she was heading. And what I can even do is maybe speculate one step further with that and say that she parred 1, she parred 2, and she birdied 3. So it didn't look like those were necessarily any trouble spots for her. And if she just wanted to practice her putting, she could do it right by the area that she was already near. So maybe there's something on 1, 2, or 3 that she's going to clear up. And that's just some good old-fashioned projecting at that point and making something up that really might not be the case. But that's just a guess anyway. All right. So Missy did shoot even. Like I said, a perfectly fine start. She was 1 down through 3 holes. She ended up taking the eagle, which is another thing we'll get into. She eagled hole 10, and then she had really just one big misstep out there today. The only misstep that I would consider was really serious would be her on 13A, and that is otherwise known usually as the 888 hole. It's played a little bit differently. The FPO has a different tee pad and all those other considerations. There's a pin that is played today and on the final day. And then the next 2 days, it's actually moved to a different position. And we're going to find that to be the case on holes 17 and 13 throughout this weekend. I believe those are the only 2 this year where we're going to see pin positions on the opening and the closing round. And then on the middle 2 rounds, they're going to be in different pins. Again, that's 13 and that's 17. Coincidentally, two holes that are kind of infamously known to bust up your round or your weekend or your hopes of winning the tournament. So we'll see how those continue to play out. She didn't have an incredibly strong finish either. 17A, she struggled on a little bit, and then 18. So just to put it in perspective, as she sits at even, I look at how she played 17 and 18 bogey, and someone like Katrina, who's sitting 6 strokes in front of her, played that birdie. So right there on those 2 holes alone, she lost 4 strokes to Katrina. So yeah, certainly something to consider as she's going to try and close out her round tomorrow. Heather Young kept it relatively clean. straightforward. She ended up having 4 birdies, 2 bogeys. Katrina, of course, some more birdies along with the eagle on hole number 10. And then Paige, almost a clean scorecard. She has just 1 bogey on the course, and that was hole number 12, which is one of the longest holes or one of the longer holes out there. But she finds the OB, and that was really her biggest mistake of the week, or I'm sorry, of the round, was finding the OB and not able to recover and walk away with a par. She ends up walking away with a bogey. Nonetheless, she has 11 birdies on the round and puts together a 10 under. And I know I talked about it much earlier, and I never did go back to look. So now I'm going to do some of that research on the fly with you guys. I would love to know. I was guessing that was going to be rated around, from the few scores that were in, I was guessing that was going to be rated somewhere around 1045 is what I think I was talking to Jamie about. And I have not looked yet today. Okay, so it came in, it's unofficially rated 1039, which, now that I think about it, probably won't matter because I don't think these will be counting against her overall stats. But for those of you that love the ratings, an unofficial 1039. So last weekend, I think she had a 1,021 maybe rated round, 1,002 rated round, 1,040 something rated round. She averaged like 1020 golf over 3 rounds at Jonesboro. Today she comes out, opens up the tournament with a 1039 rated round. Again, ratings probably won't be counting here due to the various rules that they have here at the event, but it still is somewhat of an indicator, as she's 6 she has 4 shots clear of Katrina. Katrina's round unofficially rated a 1013. Like I said, she had a 6 under. Heather Young had that 4 under. And then right there in the hunt, where things really bunch up, I feel like from first to fourth, you have a full 10 strokes. But then we'll include 4th place there, and then you go all the way down to you go all the way down to the next 25 spots is what you need to do before you have your next 10 strokes. So even I think the really big popular number was right around that even 1, 2, 3 under, somewhere in that area. Sarah Hokum shot +1, as did Callie McMorrin, and they are sitting in that 5th place, that tie for 5th. If you go to say +4, you're down to 15th. So that's where we saw Haley King finish, who had a really tough struggle as she was bringing things in. Kind of interesting to see that she really struggled on the last few holes, and she still shot a 1047, what would have been a 1047 rated round, and that's just 2 points off of her regular current rating out there. So that's pretty incredible to see. I don't know if there's a lot of other notables out there. I don't know also, and you guys could put it in the comments. I'll have to try to do my best to take a look at it. You guys can tell me if there's anything that really surprises you that we saw out there today. You have to think someone like Paige, Kat would be your kind of your assumed favorites in an event like this, purely based on rating. Depending on how much distance they actually find out there and how safe they need to play or how controlled they need to play, Sarah Hokum's right there with her rating to be, of course, considered a front runner in this event. You wouldn't think of her as necessarily a distance player, but we know at an event like the USDGC, sometimes the distance can get you in more trouble depending on how far and how aggressive you want to play. But Sarah Hokum, like I said, sitting in a tie for 5th right there and is incredibly competitive. So, and I'm going to try and interact a little bit more here with you guys as I see. No surprises. There's a lot of people saying not surprised at all. Someone writes PP and Cat for sure. Now, nobody's writing anything off. Nobody's getting any checks written to them yet. There are 54 holes of golf that have to still be played out. So I'm not counting anyone in or out at this moment. There's a lot of things that can change, and if we're going to have inclement weather possibly roll in by the end of the week for the end of the tournament, that can change things up. Everyone prepares and plays a little bit differently. Kind of a funny story. I was talking to Courtney McCoy yesterday during our prep day, and she's like, in so many words, I think it was, hell yeah, bring on that weather. You know, I'm a muddin' girl. So she had specifically said, like, she's good. She's ready to go play in adverse conditions. And Courtney, I think I met nearly 15, 18 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Courtney's been around the game for a while. And I feel like Courtney is one of those players that's probably always prepared and always ready to go in the most adverse of conditions. And so it's, I don't want to say that's a trick up your sleeve, or that's necessarily anything you want to count on or rely on in any capacity, but to know that you're comfortable playing in adverse conditions. I mean, you see it. Some people really rise to the occasion, and some people falter and struggle because they either hate the conditions, or they're underprepared for the conditions, or they just simply don't play well for whatever reason in conditions. And I think that will be kind of interesting to see as the weekend moves on. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. That's all the way out in Saturday, potentially, and that the weather may pass over us. But if it doesn't, that's something you have to look for. Who is most prepared, and how are they going to handle adverse conditions? So appreciate it. I see a few more comments that are rolling in. Someone at Disc Golf Luke specifically is asking, can you talk about hole 10 for the women? Should it really be a par 3? It looks like a close to 40% got eagles and 80% were under par on the hole. Luke, you just found yourself a position on the writing crew and staff here. I appreciate that. I appreciate you doing the homework. Otherwise, I would have fumbled through trying to figure that out. Great question. We talked about it in the show. Paige doesn't necessarily think that should be listed as a par 4. It is a 329-foot hole, so it's 100 meters. It does have the OB carry to it, and I think maybe, again, the conditions were great today. First of all, I think conditions will certainly impact how that hole gets played. And second of all, I think maybe, I don't think par setters are really a person, although that would probably be a good disc golf name. I think the par setters maybe were just a bit off on that. And everyone will look at the numbers. We can see how things, could be addressed in future years or future configurations, depending on what's used. But I think the women have proved, the women that are here are very confident in that shot and not having any problems. They're not having any problems clearing the OB area. And even if they are playing out to a safer side for that hole, they're still probably getting up and down and at least walking away with the par. I'm sorry, at least walking away with a 3. So we all know at the end of the day, the low score is what wins. Now, is there something in your psyche? Is there something mentally about how much you are over or under par? Excuse me. You are over or under par? Sure, absolutely. There is. I'm sure there's been books written about the mindset of where you sit relative to par. However, the low score wins. So whether it's a par 10 or a par 2 or a par 6, the low score is going to win. I would think, though, when it's all said and done, if we could dial things back and then look at how the women are attacking that hole and how the women are really just making it easy, yeah, it would probably not be considered a par 4. So without beating that to death too much, I'd go as far as saying I think almost every woman in the field would probably agree with that assessment as well. If they were out there and had come to the event a week ago and were looking at it and needed to have, we're having a round table with the par setter, again, a fake name I just made up, they would probably say, okay, that's not really a par 4. That definitely is a par 3. So, and I think most of you guys agree with all of that. Derpel Hayes says par setters should be a company that only makes putters. Yeah, I could get behind that. I just feel like it's it just sounds like it, whether it's a good club name or a funny company name. There's something about par setter that I like. All right, I'm going to take a look at anything else on the FPO side. I'm really disappointed that I'll say this for starters. I'll take on the FPO side. Let me get my thoughts straight. I'm disappointed the screen share, which really does say share screen, is not allowing me, because that would make it so much easier for you to follow along with me. I'm going to click on it again, and you guys are, oh, hold on. I think I might have figured out what I need to do. I'm going to click on this button. Hopefully I don't share anything that you guys don't want to be. Let's take a look at this, guys. This might work. Hopefully there's still audio, and if there is, this could break everything. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. No. Oh, okay. Here we go. Let's look at that. Hopefully there is still audio, and if you guys can help me, let me know. Can you still hear me? Sorry, I am typing, and if this works, like I said, this might be a game changer for me. I am currently trying to watch my own feed to make sure. Hey, yes, this is so exciting. All right, well, I've now talked about most of the women's information here, but I can at least scroll down. Clearly, all credit to udisclive.com. Can't say it enough. UDisc hype man Dan is out here. I know UDisc Josh, UDisc Matt are probably working behind the scenes doing a whole bunch of stuff, but I absolutely love this. All right, so here's what we saw on the scores. As much as now we've talked about one thing that I love to do out there is I love to go to the course statistics, and then you can, one way to do it is to take a look at the average relative to par. You can see that hole 9 played as the most difficult hole on the course. That's not nearly as exciting to talk about as the hole that played the easiest, and that would be hole 10. And then when you click on this on hole 10, you can actually then drill down. Not only will you get a little bit of a description or whatever map has been then provided to UDisc, but then also all of the additional statistics. So yes, 18th most difficult, aka the single easiest. Again, that has some golf backing as to why they label it that way. I'm not smart enough to understand, but average 3.09 on the day, with 74% of the field getting birdie or better. So, and then you just scroll over this when you're on the browser, you can see that 14 players got the birdie. Meanwhile, 12 players got the eagle. I don't know if you're ever going to see that statistic again in men's or women's disc golf, that 74% of the people getting below par and 34% of those are eagles. So fair to say that was a very soft par 4. And then also, of course, you can click on, you can sort them however you want to as to how people did it. And you can see the longest make on that hole today was the Eagle by Cap Merch with a 38 footer. So I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with all of the beauty that you can find in UDisc, but all of those things are here and available. I say it all the time. I'm not much of a statistics person. However, when you look at UDisc, sometimes things just jump right off at you as incredibly easy to paint a picture or tell a story thanks to everything that they do. And again, as you scroll down, you look at hole 10 playing as the easiest. Also, when you look that way, see a little bit of struggles, you realize just how difficult it can be to close out on this course. And I think that's going to be even more prevalent when you look at holes 17 and 18 in most of the divisions. So I'm incredibly excited to hear that, to see that worked. Now I'm going to click another button. I make no additional promises that that's not what I was trying to do. Let's try that. Okay. We'll go back to the shared screen in a little while, but I just wanted to come back and get things reset for you. So I'm going to read a few more of the the comments here. I appreciate you guys. More people are continuing to tune in, and I really do appreciate that. as I'm looking at what everyone else is saying. Yes, that did work. All right. MPO side. I'll get into sharing the screen and dissecting a few numbers and details over there. However, uh, the talk around the table today and the talk as we were in inside the Winthrop Arena show that we did on Disc Golf Network today, opening day, it seemed like the course was playing a little easier than normal. And thankfully, we had someone that could either validate that or otherwise in Steve Brinster. He was at the table with us. Steve Brinster, of course, a champion here at the USDGC, and he was at the dinner table. And we kind of dissected a few holes, which I'd love to talk about in a moment. We kind of dissected a few holes. To me, things that really stood out were just how easy I felt like hole 11 played today. And easy is still a relative term, but holes 11 and 12 and 13, I feel like those three holes are I don't want to just say the teeth of the course, but there is a spike usually on those three holes, 11, 12, and 13. If somebody's going to take a big number, or you watch somebody start out 8 for 9 or 9 for 9 and just shredding, 11, 12, and 13 are those holes where you become, in my opinion, the most scared. And once you get past those, you take a separate sigh of relief before then you move in to try and close things out, because you're just kind of you take a deep breath, you exhale, and then you maybe try to build yourself back up so that by the time you take that long walk over to hole 17, you're feeling refreshed and ready to go. So that's how I feel like when you're approaching, you're figuratively and literally, making the turn, rounding the corner when you're done with hole 9. Hole 10 has its own challenge, usually an eagle opportunity for the bigger arms. And then once you're done with 10, though, 11, 12, and 13 are those are those that can really bite you. So yeah, and yes, before we move off FPO, there's a couple other things I want to touch on quickly. Yes, I had it under my shirt today, and I was wearing it around on the course. My hashtag respect her game. If you missed it, there was a great conversation that we had with Sarah Hokum today as she came off the course and sits in that 5th place position. But she really kind of gave us the background and the history more about the hashtag respect her game, the campaign, the website, the reasoning, and she broke it down for us. I'm not going to get into every detail here. She broke it down for us. And then shortly after we had Sarah on, when the next card came in, and Katrina, who's also obviously on our lead card, she came in and talked to us about it as well, and some of the experiences and how she got involved and some of the things that she's doing. All great stuff. So I trust if you're here watching now, you're probably a Disc Golf Network subscriber. All of that will be available and is out there for somebody to consume those conversations that were great conversations. And huge shout out. I don't know if it was just Innova or DJ Heck Yeah or Sarah and Kat, or I'm not sure who was all involved, but there was a massive effort for these t-shirts to show up everywhere. They were handed out. Most people are just asked, what's your shirt size? And whether it was that day or the next day, a shirt was just handed to you. And I don't know who supported it financially, who made it happen. I have to assume there's part of maybe the women's committee or organization. I have to assume Innova, maybe the Pro Tour. I don't want to give anyone too much credit, but whoever was part of helping support that to make these shirts and to make the campaign that much more prevalent today on the course, huge blessing and shout out and thank you. Maybe somebody can chime in and actually let me know who financially was helping support that, because we all know these t-shirts aren't free. And what was really cool is the extra added step that I saw Sarah and others taking, that regardless of who your sponsor was, if you have a primary sponsor, you were given a shirt and then they were asking who your sponsor was, and they'd put that on the back as well. So I'll just say a prodigy player like Kat, or a dynamic disc or a discraft player, whomever it was, whoever your primary sponsor was, they would also then, after they got your shirt size, they would then also put that on the back. So I think it's awesome. And as Corey and others say, whoever made them, thank you. I think it was pretty cool. All right. And before we also move on, because it's FPO related, the little bit I could listen in to Hannah and Juliana, awesome. Really, maybe no surprise there. I think the two of them are. I had no second guessing at all about the two of them being in the booth. I know Juliana made a post recently saying she was a little bit nervous and she puts on a lot of pressure on herself, and she's by nature she's introverted. You couldn't tell. For the little bit I was able to tune in today and listen, I couldn't tell. I thought she was a natural. She's obviously one of the most decorated, best players, Hall of Famers, one of the best players of all time, and one of the few women that have actually competed here at the event many years ago. And all of that came through. So nice work, Hannah. Nice work, Juliana. Again, I don't want to say it's not worth mentioning. It certainly is worth mentioning. It's just, it didn't surprise me that they were really good out there on the mic. So I'd love to know what you guys would think. I know a few people chimed in and said that you enjoyed it and that you thought they were great. I expect more of the same of that throughout the rest of the weekend. I'm often asked, who do I enjoy doing, being in the booth with, or maybe calling shots or doing commentary with? And I know it sounds a little cheesy. I've loved every one of the commentators that I've worked with. And that was Nate and Val a few weeks ago. That's been Robert McCall. That's been Hannah. Jamie Thomas alongside him today, even though we weren't necessarily calling the shots. Call me not picky or maybe adaptable. I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, but I've enjoyed working with everybody. Everybody has a different style. And I know some people have their preferences and whatnot, but when it comes to me sitting in a booth and watching disc golf on a screen, you put anyone next to me and I'll probably have a really good time with it. So, and that also kind of leads to what we'll talk about. Philo and Ian doing a really good job out there today as well, from what I could chime in. I like how Paul Martin asks, who's your least favorite? I mean, throw them all in a hat and pick a name, because that's what I would have to do in order for me to truly try and pick a least favorite out there. I don't have one. I've really enjoyed my time with everyone. And Lindsay says, Nate is like your bromance. I mean, whatever. Chemistry is chemistry. And wherever that happens, I'm not going to complain. Johnny V. Awkward. I'm going to say Johnny V is my least favorite, but I don't call a lot of golf with him. I'll say that. Okay. Let's see if I can make some magic. I would love to go over and possibly share this other screen with you. On my end, I'm going to click on the USDGC tab that can be found over on any browser, USDGC, or I'm sorry, UDisc Live, and then go to the USDGC version. And then it looks like if I click another button, I might be able to give you guys, oh my God. All right, everybody cross your fingers, because we're going to see if I can now give you, share the screen with, let's see here. If I do that, is not what I wanted. It's close, but if I do this, that's what I wanted. 40 more tries, I still won't do it right. Here we are. I should have said this earlier. Spoiler alert. Anthony Barella in the lead, 13 under par. I don't know what else you can really say except for solid round. You're looking at it there, no blemishes on the scorecard. A couple pars, of course. Picks up the eagle on hole 10, which, yes, is a very different shot than what we see on the FPO side. It is not the 329-foot shot, but it's a full power shot. I hope I'm quoting Steve Brinster when he says about hole 10's drive, quote, "I really need to get up on it," end quote. I think quotes are supposed to be exact, aren't they? So, okay, maybe I shouldn't use those phrasing. But I do honestly feel like that's what he said tonight at dinner. Steve Brinster, of course, plenty of power out on the course. But some other players can make it look easy. And I think one of my favorite comments made of the day is by our leader in Anthony Barella. We talked about hole 10. We talked about going for the eagle. And he said, yeah, I need to not throw it deep. I need to not go past the basket. Honestly, that really kind of makes me laugh because I think, yeah, you need to not go past the basket on the 549-foot shot. So let's do what we did before. I want to break down. I'm going to start on hole 10 since we're talking about it. If we go over to the course stats, and then I scroll down to the averages, that's where you can find the hardest and the easiest holes. We'll talk about those in a moment. And statistically, it looks like hole 10 came in as the easiest hole on the men's side. And now here we are looking, hopefully you can see the graphic all right. As you're seeing it, the red dot is, I believe, where the women tee from. And I guess I could verify that by going to take a look here on the WNC version to hole number 10. I think I'm making this more difficult than I should be for you guys. But as we take a look at hole number 10, I want to say it's the exact, the drop zone, so to speak, is in fact, yes. Okay, so that is, there it is, the red dot, as opposed to where the men play it from, which if they were to go out of bounds, they would go to where the women tee from. 73%. What was the women's side? Was it 74% were under par? So not quite as many eagles, of course, but you still had 59% of the field taking birdies. And then you had 10 players, otherwise known as 14% of the field, taking eagles. Then I scroll down and you look at who took these eagles, and you need an arm. I mean, I guess you just can't sugarcoat it or say it any other way. If you're going to eagle that, you clearly have to have some serious power. Isaac, Adam, Barella. Now, some of those guys might have been pushing a little bit closer to their max distance, but putting themselves there and then walking away with an eagle is still pretty impressive. I'll also take a look at now. The one thing that you can't have is an eagle from too far away, because the way that the green is shaped, you could potentially throw out far to the left side on your eagle attempt and then make a long putt. That didn't seem to be the case today. That would be more likely for a birdie to happen from the long left side. So your eagles are all going to be within, this 27 or 30 feet or so, because that's essentially the size of the green. And if someone's going for the green, that's where they're going to make from. We don't see anything in terms of crazy long distance out on that hole whatsoever today. Few people struggled, found themselves out of bounds. And even there, even the couple of people that struggled and found OB still walked away with fives, which isn't too bad considering that it is the par 4. Heimberg, Castro, Hannum, Gilbert, all to name a few that had a little bit of a struggle out there. So all right, I'm going to head back to the scores and continue on with Barella. Incredible scorecard. I remember during our analysis, and we were talking about it today, it wasn't, as you saw, until hole 16, there was a little more separation between Barella and McBeth. That single stroke there on hole 16, which was an interesting error by McBeth to find himself in the hazard, but they almost literally matched each other stroke for stroke throughout the first 15 holes. Of course, the one exception is Barella on hole 6. Paul ultimately does the same on 16 and 17 as Barella in terms of the score. Barella takes a pair of pars, McBeth averages out to par, and then they finish with the birdies on 18. Eagle, again, another clean scorecard, does it a little bit differently. He gets 4 and 5, which you didn't see any of the two guys in front of him get. And you saw that overall, he closed out the best of the top 3 players by getting 16 and 18. Now, Isaac Robinson, on the other hand, who's tied for 4th with Dickerson, incredible close. He did take the bogey on 14, but then rattles off all 4 to close out. So arrived at the same score as Dickerson did and shot the 10 under. And you saw Dickerson actually had 3 over par strokes. And then you would maybe compare that and say he also only had 3 pars on the day. So Chris Dickerson, all around, just great recovery. He recovered from his bogey on 9, and then he came right back from 17A and recovered with a birdie on 18. And I think that is something that's so crucial, especially when a course like this is playing relatively easier or softer, so to speak, to use that term. I think it says a lot that he comes back and then finishes so strong on those final holes. All right, so I'm going to take another look here. Moving down the line, it's so tough. It's day 1. Nobody's running away with this thing by any means. Kyle Klein, I know I've talked him up consistently now literally for 2 or so years, but Kyle Klein, we saw hold his own at the MVP. He closed out really strong. That did jump off the page at me earlier. Again, that bogey on 14, but comes back, gets 3 out of 4 to finish. Nathan Queen, who we saw really make his mark here last year. He's always been known as a great player, but to see him show up the way he did at USDGC and then again this year, looks like he's picking right back up. Ezra Aderhold, he clean scorecard. And I don't care what anyone says. You can put that in your pocket. Now, you can sleep on it. You can't take it to the bank the next day, but you can at least put it in your pocket or put it under your pillow. And right before you fall asleep, you think, oh yeah, I had a clean scorecard today. And that should bring a little bit of a grin to your face. And I hope Ezra has done just that. Or maybe I went too far with my analogy. He might think that's creepy. Moving down the list, Adam Hammis, I talked about him earlier. He finished really strong on the back today. A lot of birdies were picked up there. He knew he was struggling because he was only at even, and then he goes 6 down in the final 9 holes. Dave Felberg, who of course has won this event, didn't string a lot together, but overall had a pretty solid showing out there. And we see 6s and 5s seem to be they're solid scores and they were popular scores, and they're also still competitive. So I think there's a lot to be said, at that number or better out here during this first round. Zachariah Johnson, Andrew Presnell, Clint Calvin, Dan Brooks Wells, so on and so forth. Matt Bell, I got to shout him out. I was watching his scorecard. I saw that he was 7 under through the first 10 holes, and then to have him just really struggle to close things out. I'm now just actually realizing that he had 3 6s in the back 9, and that's just not what anyone would really anticipate for Matt Bell. So I guarantee you are going to see a vast improvement. I would lay some money down on it if that's legal. I would lay money on the line even that you're going to see a huge, huge turnaround by Matt Bell when he closes out round 2 tomorrow. Steve Brinster, champion. Steve also said he's 3 under. He's 10 off the pace. And he said, absolutely not in a cocky way, he said, I don't feel like I'm out of this. I can still put together rounds consistently. And he doesn't feel like he's out of this at this point. And I'm sure someone like Kevin Jones is feeling the same. And then just below that, you have this really big cluster of 2s and 3s. Nico LaCastro, previous champion James Conrad, who struggled on 17, Ricky Wysocki, who struggled on 17 and did not close out well at all today. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 6 to 8 stroke improvement. I'd go as far as a 9 stroke improvement. Somebody mark the tape. Ricky Wysocki officially went, I'm so good at math on the air here. Looks like he went, he had 2 birdies, so he's 1 under, and then he took a triple. So he's 2 over on the back today? I wouldn't be surprised to see him go 7 under on the back tomorrow. I'm going to assume that was he'll make some adjustments, and I think he's going to finish out stronger tomorrow. So look forward to that. I know I maybe gave it away a little bit earlier, but let's play everyone's least favorite segment, which is which hole was the toughest on the MPO side today. I'm going to do my average sort, and there it is. The Dream Crusher, hole 17A. And if you're not familiar with why it's 17A, it's obviously played to the left pin. I talked about that earlier. On 17 and 13, they play in the A position on opening and closing day. And on the two middle days, I believe they're going to be playing to the B positions. So today, just 15%, only 11 players at 249 feet, 11 players getting the birdie. You see that on the A position, it's tight, that much tighter to the left, and the water can come into play, as do even the hay bales, struggles. And taking a quick look at, shout out to all the birdies. Isaac, really the only player in the top four that carded the birdie on hole number 17 today. We saw Paul Macbeth lay it up wide to the right and kind of walk away with a drop-in three. And then we saw a lot of other people struggling with it as we take a look at some of the numbers out there. Simon Lizotte, namely, just couldn't get it on the green, and then eventually went to the drop zone. And unlike James Conrad, who made the long putt from 60 feet from the drop zone, Simon didn't convert, and that's why you see Simon walking away with the snowman. It was 80 degrees here, and if you saw a snowman at any point, it was not a welcomed one. I'll be excited to see a snowman in about 2 months in Wisconsin in December. Not so much at Winthrop in October, that's for sure. All right, so real quick, I'll see if there's any other things that jump off the scores at me. The one kind of overarching comment would be, I think it's interesting. You see in the upper third or so, maybe even the upper 25% of the field, it looks like they dominated the back nine. Played it really well. Tons of blue on the back nine. And of course, they scored a little bit on the front. As you scroll down, you notice a shift. There's a lot more blue on the front nine and a lot less specifically on the back. So I mean, and I'm not to pick on any players, but where we're looking right now, from that, even that tied for 21st position all the way to the tied for 33rd, look at all of the players that really look like they were off to great rounds to get things going on the front, and then all of them stalled out in terms of their scoring on the back. And Nico Locastro clearly just one hole away from a much more impressive round, as he took a 9 today on hole number 9. So he goes 5 over par on that one hole. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's why you play all 18. But you substitute we'll say a par for that, and he's at 7 under. That would put him at 7 under, which puts him on, the third card. So he's looking to make improvements on hole 9 tomorrow. I can absolutely guarantee you that. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully successfully clear out our scoring. Thank you to UDisc. As I'll say yet again, I appreciate all of their information, everything that we can draw from there. And they just tell so many stories. And you don't have to be, I think, statistically inclined to go out there, and even just if you just like to look at pretty colors, like sometimes that's as far as my brain goes. That's one way that you could accomplish that. That front nine just seemed to play so much easier, and you got to the back, and the people that struggled, seems like they struggled more so on the back than they did on the front. I think one of the most interesting stats, as I'm no longer on it anymore, but I think one of the more interesting stats on the day is the fact that 0 of our competitors, if I recall, 0 of our competitors that are on the lead card birdied hole 1. So I'm going to take a quick look at hole 1 yet again. Hole 1, like hole number 17, is 249 feet. So 17 in the short left position, in the A position, is 249. Hole 1 in this position is also 249. So it ties for the shortest hole on the course, and it's obviously the starting hole, and it plays as the 13th most difficult and only gave up 24 birdies today. Not too many bogeys, just 9% were above par, but it only gave up 32% of the field were able to open up their tournament. Now, there's a lot of things that can be said about that. It can be the nerves. It can be just slightly out of placement. We saw Paul McBeth with an incredibly conservative play on hole number 1, where he said, I was a little bit out of position and I didn't want to, and it slopes downhill and there's bushes down there. I didn't want to run a putt, have something go wrong, and then open up the tournament with a bogey. So I'll admit I was even a little bit shocked to see him not even really think about giving that a run, as he just pitched up and walked away with a par. Now, clearly, in hindsight, seemed like a pretty bright move, but I think that is something that's kind of interesting to look at, that 0 players on our lead card opened up the tournament with a birdie on that 249-footer. All right. I'm going to take a look at, I'm definitely behind on what you guys are talking about with regard to some of the stats and scores that I was just looking at. I'm sorry, I'm quite behind. Actually, I wasn't able to pay attention to any of those, but I see some people certainly a little frustrated for John Holden has an emoji for Simon. I think Simon would echo that emoji. Micah Lee says, AB and Klein have the same consistency issues, in my opinion. I would disagree with that. There's a couple ways I would unpack that also. I feel like AB came into the scene a little bit earlier, by a year or two. He came onto the professional scene. He also was thrust immediately into the spotlight. He was always kind of a Paul McBeth protege. He very much mimicked a lot of the qualities and a lot of the throwing styles and mechanics that you saw from Paul McBeth. And then he quickly went from being much shorter to much taller than him. I guess that's not part of that, but then he jumped in the scene and obviously throws far and is very good. All of that. Then AB in the last year has also introduced himself to college. And so for that reason, I think we saw him fall off a little bit. He definitely wasn't prioritizing golf, understandably. I think there was a question about how much he did want to tour or didn't, and what kind of his game plan was there. And so if you saw AB, I feel like, fall off for that reason, or if you saw him fall off at all, that would be one of the reasons. And somebody else mentioned on the chat board here, I hope this spell or just coincidence is broken tomorrow and moving forward. For some reason, Anthony Barella has not traditionally played to his full potential on a live broadcast. And that's all I can speak to, because that's the one I'm most familiar with. Of course, I have filmed him. I've filmed him winning other tournaments in post-production, and clearly he plays very well. And today he was filmed. He was live today. I get all of that. I would love to see him come back out and fully squash that hump, so to speak, that I feel like he's had in the past. Now, I don't know if he's aware of it. I don't know if he cares. I don't know if anyone else, how many other people have ever really thought about it or noticed it. I would love to see him come back out and continue playing to the capabilities that we know that he has. One of the things he talked about with us was, just really committing to the shot. And I'll say it over and over, in being here 10 or so of the last 20 years, committing to shots is for sure the number one quality and the number one thing that you have to do when you're on this course. There is no letting up. There is no letting your guard down. There is no way that you just want to be like, oh, I'm just going to kind of walk this in, or I'm just going to kind of lollygag this one in. Fully committed all the time, every shot. I remember thinking back a number of years ago, and I guess technically it's still true. You can find with either a mediocre or bad shot, or even a really bad shot, you can find OB on every single hole on this course. And now 1 is the closest exception to that. Even though I have seen 1 in the old position all but get up and roll all the way down to the lake or near the lake. And a terrible shot could somehow skip OB left. I mean, I would consider just packing it up and ending your tournament if you find OB road on the left on hole number 1. I genuinely mean that in the meanest way. Just pack it up. You are better off not. You are better off saving your hotel money for the remainder of the week if you find road OB on hole 1. Okay, so I'll be blunt about that. But if you think about it, almost literally every hole on the course, you can find OB on your tee shot, and on a lot of them, OB on your second or even third shot. Committed, consistent, focused. You need all of those things to be able to compete out at this course and not going OB on hole 1. All right. Let's take a little bit closer look at what else I'm seeing out there. I know Drew Gibson did triple bogey hole 1. It looked like I do recall looking during the broadcast, and he had 3 or 4 putts inside the circle. Now, I'm just guessing without seeing any of the footage. I'm guessing that's a hit and a roll. That's exactly what Paul McBeth was maybe worried about, even though he was on a much longer distance. You could be 18 feet away, hit the band, and that thing can get up and roll to 32 feet or outside the circle. You could get up and roll to one of the nearby bushes and then giving you no look, even though you're inside the circle. So those are all, I can't speak to what happened with Drew, but he didn't go OB. So I'm not encouraging him to pack up his bags. Mike is asking, is it possible to pull a forehand left? Again, maybe with this position, sure. I mean, I could probably do it, but then again, I would pack up. I don't know. I don't know if someone would be able to. In theory, someone could. Yes, if you pull a forehand over that far left and it's not hooking up enough to get you back to the right at any point, first pack your bags, save your money on the hotel visit, and then go home and immediately start practicing your forehand. All right, and do it in that order. That's probably what they should do. Now, Mike is saying also that they brought back original 1 and 2. Yes, that's also something new that's different from last year. Last year they played. They really started the tournament or the course on what is now known as hole number 3, and then they added a couple of other holes out on the course. I'm not sure if that was purely a course design component as to why they got rid of those and they brought back 1 and 2. I don't know if that's I think it might be more to do with course flow. And with COVID, there's that many less volunteers, vendors, spotters, commotion, and traffic. And holes 1 and 2 can be easily disrupted. So I'm not sure if that's why they decided to bring back 1 and 2 this year, with it relating to COVID and knowing there would be that much less commotion going on. That's actually a really good question. And I apologize, maybe it's been talked about somewhere, but that would be a good question for me to follow up with Jonathan Poole as to why they brought back 1 and 2 this year, or if they just love those holes and they tried an experiment last year and they didn't like it and they thought 1 and 2 needed to be there. I'm not sure if COVID played into any of that whatsoever in terms of the decision making, but that is something that could be considered for sure as to why they didn't stick with the 1 and 2 that they had last year. And some people are saying, yeah, and most pros hated it due to the parking. And I'm not sure if you were referring to holes 1 and 2. Again, hole 2 kind of parallels back to 1 in a little bit, but then there's just a lot of commotion and things going on, and then there is a parking lot that can come into play, and it just there's no better way to word it. It's a heavily trafficked area with a lot of commotion. So I think I understand their logic last year in trying to just eliminate said commotion. All right, I'm taking a look at the chart to see if there's anything else. I do want to segue briefly over to, and I cannot stress this enough. If somehow you are, I understand confusion is real, it's prevalent out there, and I cannot stress this enough. I want to do this so everybody is just, and maybe you know this, but maybe my words will help you encourage others. If you want to watch the live stream every single hole, that's going to probably contain at one card, if not possibly two cards, depending on how they're hustling around over there at Fulcrum. You have to be part of the USDGC live pay-per-view option and purchase. They have a $9.99 option and not now second guessing it because I don't want to say it wrong. USDG. They have two options still available, and oh my gosh, it was $39, $29, and $19. So it's either $19.99 or $29.99. That's what I get for second guessing myself. You need to have that if you want to watch every single shot by the women or by the afternoon action on the men's side. Okay. We at Disc Golf Network, which has housed all of the live events from the Disc Golf Pro Tour this year, we at the Disc Golf Network are giving you a complimentary show. We are trying to add on to what they are already doing. We were not contracted and hired to do the live broadcasting, so there was never any confusion on that end. And we wanted to still be part of the tremendous event that it is, but we are not showing shot by shot for you to consume. That has to be all through the USDGC and through that pay-per-view model with Fulcrum. And I understand the confusion. I really do, because we've had now 10 live disc golf tournaments. The 10 biggest disc golf tournaments of the year have all been on Disc Golf Network. So I understand how someone can get confused, but for the last few weeks at least, we've tried to do everything we could to make sure that everyone knows that it is a separate package. It in some ways has nothing to do with us, other than the fact that we are also here giving you our analysis and our stats in the show, the Inside the Winthrop Arena show that we're providing. But that is all in addition to help complement what they are doing on the live coverage. So I cannot emphasize that enough. There were a number of people, God bless them, that signed up for the Disc Golf Network today and then got very angry because they saw just Jamie and I talking. And we would kind of dip in and show you a little bit of live action, thanks to Fulcrum, and being able to dip into their feed and kind of talk about a few things going on as rounds were either wrapping up or just getting started. But the whole entire premise of our show is that we are not showing you the live shot by shot. That is not at all the format, the premise, none of that. Okay, so when you get a chance, when you see someone barking on the internet, which can be a rough place, I know very well. When you see somebody doing that, if you can, just politely maybe direct them to the right website, or let them know that they're a little misguided in their thought process. Okay. Michael says, I'm not a fan of this PPV nonsense. I hear you. I think everyone has a slightly different opinion and an angle. I'm just going to say it's got to get paid for. I'm not going to totally sidetrack into a whole nother tangent here, but live coverage, post-production coverage, all of those things have to get paid for. And pay-per-view right now is a model that is continuing to be tried and tested, and we're going to see how things shake out. And of course, we have our subscription model, which is a form of pay-per-view in a more overarching regular sense, or more consistent sense, in that we have all these different events going on. So I understand disc golfers may or may not realize disc golf's been free to watch for large in part. 99.99% of disc golf has been free to watch in the last 10 years that I've been involved. And there's been literally just a few dozen events that have been behind some form of a paywall. And hundreds and thousands of other rounds and events have been free. We're all wading through this together. So I understand. And Disc Blaster say $20 is a lot of food for the family. I completely agree. And I also know there's plenty of people that will spend $20 in imported beer and cigarettes and go through all of that in one round of golf with their buddies this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon. So I understand it's all perspective. And I understand, there's pros and cons to all of it. So Blue Boys out there says, I bought it. The coverage is good, which is awesome to hear. Tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to actually try and consume more of their broadcast. Again, I was able to dip in during our show and catch up on some of it, but I also want to just consume more of it in general so I can hear a little bit more. And then that'll be one of the final topics. Philo, Ian, I'd love to hear some points out there. I know everybody has your favorites. Everybody has their non-favorites. You don't need to get nasty, but just maybe a quick straw poll as to Philo, Ian, was it, it's a change of pace, clearly. I know Nate and Jamie have a style and the elements that they bring. I know myself and Nate brought you probably slightly different elements a few weeks ago. Big Germ and Nate, or Big Germ and Yuli in post-production, obviously bring you yet a different style. But overall, I'd love to know what you guys think and how that worked out. Philo knows golf, as does Ian, but Philo really knows golf. And I think it was probably cool to see how that was received out there today. And I know he had a really tough decision to not play, but instead to show up to this most prestigious event of the year, not compete, but instead sit behind a mic. And that may be a sign of things to come. It might not. I guess we'll have to see. Megan asks, is there any YouTube post-produced? Yes. Short answer is yes. Central Coast is putting together post-production, shot-by-shot coverage. And I believe that is scheduled to be next day still. However, for the next 2 weeks, that will all still be behind the USDGC paywall. Let me make sure I'm spitting that all out correctly. So it is available. I'm assuming tomorrow, and I'd be the first to admit I'm not on that team or any of that team. So I'm just relaying what I believe I've heard, which is post-production should be available tomorrow as part of the USDGC package. And someone sent me a message tonight and said, hey, I got home from work. I couldn't see the live stuff. When's that going to be available? And when will the post-production be up there? And I think it probably has to transcode, so you could go back and see all of the live stuff. But then tomorrow, you'll be able to see the post-production if you are paying as part of the USDGC Fulcrum paywall. Now, Johnny V, who might still be out there, informed me earlier that he saw someone saying they don't know if they can stay away from spoilers because it's going to be behind this paywall for 2 weeks before it's released to the rest of the world. And to you, I don't care. I simply, I will be callous and just blunt and rude. If you think somehow the rest of the world should stop moving and posting and celebrating because you want to wait 2 weeks to watch post-production and not have it spoiled, I don't care. Who in their right mind says, social media better halt, and the entire world better stop spinning because I'm going to wait 2 weeks for post-production and I don't want it spoiled. Now, I understand you may say I'm going to wait 2 weeks, but you cannot expect the rest of the world to not go about their business for the year's single biggest major, or the single biggest event up into this point, which is also the one major we have in FPO and MPO. That's seriously, that's crazy. I cannot say that enough. That is absolutely crazy if that's what you expect. So, and I get it. I get some people love post-production and they want to wait the 12 or 24 hours for it, and therefore they should stay off social media and they don't want to be spoiled. I can understand that to a degree. I certainly can. But if you think 2 weeks is reasonable for the world to not give you spoilers, you're just crazy. Okay, that's what I can say about that. Ryan, thank you for chiming in. Ryan says rewatch of the live is available now. You just need view the desktop or view website on desktop. Yeah, the short answer is it's available now. So if you want to go out and see the action from today, you could probably scrub through it if you don't want to wait for post. If you want to listen to Ian and Philo or Juliana and Hannah, scrub through it. There's no commercials, which is some of you will really love. So it's available, as Ryan is just saying. So it's available for replay. Donald says there's no spoilers in sports. I totally agree. Again, I can understand a 12 or a 24-hour wait. I'm still not gonna not post on Facebook, because you're waiting 24 hours. I expect you, if you don't want to know the result of something, I expect that person to not be on social media for 24 hours. I can at least, to me, that's a little bit more practical. I'll say it again. 2 weeks is absurd, though. Disc Blaster says Terry specifically goes out of his way to harass the one person who is trying to avoid spoilers. No, I'm not harassing. I'm just saying yeah, okay. Well, I'll move on from it. Is it a pet peeve? No, 2 weeks is just insane. That's what it is. Just another toxic topic or thing that needs to be let go. I'm okay with that. Drew chimes in as I'm just reading off here. My one complaint with this coverage is that the field mics were too loud. It was hard to hear Juliana and Hannah or Philo and Ian whenever they'd cut to a camera with road noise or construction in the back. I was listening in, and if you can hear me, I echo that sentiment. And I heard that early in the day they had a little bit of audio balancing, and some of that to work with. I trust that they'll get it addressed and taken care of. I would assume that will be better moving forward. But I thought the exact same thing. There were times where they would cut to a camera, and to be fair, let's be very clear. None of this is criticism as much as it is. These are things that I now pick up on because I've been helping with live broadcasting for 6 years, or almost 10 actually. I pick up on those things now as well, and it's not like I was getting out my pitchfork and ready to run over to their control center. But yeah, that's something that I think that they will likely address and get fixed. That some of the cameras just had varying audio levels. Understandable. David says, Terry, I thought you and Jamie and the team were great. I appreciate that, David. I'll also warn you guys, if you don't want to hear me and Jamie talk for 2 hours tomorrow afternoon and then another hour at dinner time, then the Inside the Winthrop Arena might not be the show for you either. It's a free show, but it might not be the show for you because that's what you're going to get for the next 3 days. I'm paying for the package because I need to watch it. I can't wait 2 weeks. It would be a struggle. I can understand that. A little shout out for Isaac Robinson. Let's go. I'm excited to watch him play tomorrow. What's up with Sexton only chiming in for 3 to 4 holes? That was weird. Again, as the complimentary broadcasting show on the other side, what I picked up from that, he withdrew from the event due to injury. I think we talked about that yesterday extensively. But then they offered him a position and said, hey, maybe you could kind of act as a field reporter and chime in from time to time. I don't know that they have all that. I don't want to say technology, if they have all of that flow worked out yet. Again, the Disc Golf Pro Tour had me coming in at the beginning of the year and working kind of as a field reporter really from day one this year and a little bit into last year. So we've kind of worked through that process. And I don't think they were planning on having someone do that. So they're trying to work through the flow and the process for them for how to best attack it on their end. Is what I could say about that. I didn't hear Nate myself at any point today, but as the weekend rolls on, I'm guessing they're going to get that dialed in a little bit more. Blue Boy says the volume was inconsistent at times. Ian and Philo needed to pick a speaking volume. Yeah, and that could have been, again, that could have been in the control booth. That could have been them personally. There's a couple different factors there. The drone shots are awesome. Couldn't agree with you more. I don't want to go too far into it. I think they're a really great touch. Would I be opposed to us having them? Absolutely not, over at the Disc Golf Network. Is it a top priority for us right now? Absolutely not. I think Johnny and I said this last year when we first saw them introduce them. I feel like they are icing on the cake. I do love me some icing. Frosting? What's the difference between frosting and icing? Is that a regional difference? Does one have buttermilk and more sugar? More, I don't know. I'd love to know. Frosting. Anyway, they're really nice. They're the sprinkles on top of the cone, even though I hate sprinkles. That could be it as well. I'd love to see that get worked into our broadcast at some point as well. I feel like there are 10 things we'd love to tackle that I think could make the broadcast even better. And then at that point, we come in with sprinkles. Disc Blasters, Jonathan Poole is anti-Jomez. Not at all. I don't. Short answer is no. I think that Jonathan Poole was excited to have the combo of Ian and Philo in the booth this weekend and working with Fulcrum, and then obviously knowing that Ian runs Central Coast, that kind of all just tied together as a package in that sense. And if there's one thing that the USDGC has really kind of pioneered throughout the years is being in complete control of their media. And they want to control all of the components to it because they have a lot of sponsors, they have a lot of messaging, and they have a lot of branding that they want to specifically put their best foot forward. And when you put in that kind of money, I can understand that. And that's, I don't think that's anti-Jomez or that's not anti any other company. It's just they want to be able to control things in the right way with and protecting their investments. I've been told, excuse me, that exact thing a number of years ago when I wanted to come down and just volunteer some of my time to film stuff. And, that was the response that was given to me at that point. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Christopher says, dude, you give dope insight. I appreciate that, Christopher, assuming you're talking to me. Do you think next season we'll have a one-stop shop for all event coverage subscription, or is there ownership rights to work through? The second question is 100% correct. There are ownership rights. The Disc Golf Pro Tour, and maybe a final point on that is the Disc Golf Pro Tour has the media rights to all of the events on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Therefore, there's never a question as to where it's going to be and how it's going to be administered. I'm sorry, I'm going to take some water here. Wish this was filled with other stuff in my fancy, Oh, geez. Oh, no. All right. Now everything's going to go downhill real quick. So the Disc Golf Pro Tour is in control of the media rights. The USDGC, Innova, and all of the partners and sponsors and contributors of the event have a different relationship. And therefore, again, I understand the frustration and the confusion that some had, but the Disc Golf Network at no point had any contractual obligation and or agreement to cover this as part of the Disc Golf Network here in 2020, which is why we're bringing you the complimentary show, which is really just all bonus insight and analysis. Now, to answer your question, could they get under the same umbrella and be a one-stop shop? Of course, that's possible. I'd like to say anything is possible. I don't know where things are at and how things will. Yeah, of course. The water I got out is somehow frozen solid. So we're going to drink warm water. Yeah, I think it's possible. Will it happen? Who knows? I mean, I'll tell you this right now. Next year, let's go 5 years out. I'm just going to make a random example. Let's say 5 years out, Legacy, 2 years out, 5 years out, whatever. Legacy came out with a $500,000 purse, the biggest purse in disc golf history of all time, and they came out with an event with this insane purse at this amazing course. They may have and then they sanction it, PDGA sanction it, or maybe they don't. Whatever. They're going to have the grandest event of all time, and they decide that they're going to control all the media for said event. Maybe that's live, maybe that's post. They determine who can take photos. Like every event starts with the media rights being their own, and then from there, depending on who you affiliate with, whether it's sponsors or organizations like the Pro Tour, the PDGA, that's when the media rights then can get a little bit dicier. But if, again, I'm just making up a name, if Legacy came along and said, hey, we're going to have the biggest unsanctioned event on the planet, and we're paying out $500,000, and we're going to have it at we're going to have it at this course where every hole is 209 feet, they could do it, and they would control all of the media at that point. If they wanted it on the Pro Tour or they wanted to become a major, then the conversations shift about who owns the rights to the media for that event. Okay? I hope I finally got around to that. The next question was, if they're going to use Nate, why doesn't DGN? If they aren't going to, again, we're trying to figure out what the best methodology is for how we're getting through the week, and with the show that we're putting out, that's not really been done before. And that's not to say we couldn't try to find a way to get Nate in, but at this point, I don't know that we can find a way to get Nate in. And I don't know what Nate has committed to with Innova, what he's committed to with Fulcrum. I know none of those details. I've seen Nate, said hi to him, chatted with him a little bit. And maybe that's a possibility. Maybe we have some way to work him into, visiting our booth or doing some pieces for us. It's a great thought, but I was under the impression that he was going to be working with them. And at that point, I don't know that it's easy for him to double dip or to do anything with us. So, but it's certainly something that we could look into for tomorrow. Why was Simon's putt off so much? I'm just going to say, I don't know. Good question. Can you really call that pioneered? Because I truly don't believe the cost and quality is putting their best foot forward. Call that pioneered. I'm not sure if what you mean by pioneered. I know I said the word pioneered earlier, but I don't recall what specifically for. So I'd have to come back to that one. They were great for being their first day. I could only see them getting better as the week moves on. I agree. DGP will take over the national tour in 2 to 3 years, as Jake is saying. Right now, we have a great relationship with the PDGA and the national tour. Could there be some more integration or some more collaboration or integration? That certainly is possible. Ultra Cure says all media rights are going to be proprietary regardless, unless it's a crazy TV deal. Disc Blaster says DGPT is kind of whack, it seems like. Why does everything have to be the opposite of everyone wants? I would largely, almost 100% disagree with that. What do you mean by opposite of what everyone wants? I think the numbers of subscribers from the media side would say otherwise. We were hoping to get a couple thousand subscribers this year, and I think the number has crested 17,000 DGN subscribers. If you look at almost every top player, the 90% of the events they played, if not all of the events they did play this year, which were very few, were all Disc Golf Pro Tour events. Media in post-production with Jomez and Central Coast and Gatekeeper and GK Pro and the Disc Golf Guy, Parsave, all had opportunities and were very much a part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour for the year. The Pro Tour is expanding internationally. I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, and Drew says cameras aren't free and bandwidth isn't free. That is a massive understatement. Let's put it this way. I would almost go as far as saying Smashbox TV likely pays more in data than any of our viewers do in a month for your mortgage. So if that puts, maybe that's a big deal, maybe that's not. But think about what your mortgage is, and then I will tell you that Smashbox TV pays more than that every month just in our data plan. And that doesn't include dozens or hundreds of other expenses. That's just purely in data. It's pretty incredible. Both, I guess, by I mean DGPT, the free Sundays are keeping the pitchforks in the garage. There's a lot of people that watch disc golf, whether it's free or on the subscriber side. So I hear you. And you say there are like 500,000 angry people. I'm angry. I don't get everything I want in life either, Disc Blaster. I mean, I can't really speak to that. I understand. I just don't know where you think money otherwise comes from and how things become viable. There's a lot of things that I would like for free in life, and they're not happening. Quick side note that I'd love to hold you guys to, and I see it with political pundits. I see it with politicians. I see it with all entertainers. I see it on game shows, TV shows. Hold me to this, that I really hate the word look when somebody's wants your attention. Somebody gets asked a question. This is a tangent, by the way. Somebody gets asked a question, and then maybe it's a heated debate. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're just trying to draw emphasis to it. I feel like it's really rude when someone says, look, and then they go on to give you a response. Hey, why are you trying to raise taxes for this? Blah, 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 and da-da-da-da. And then the person responds with, look, we really need to do blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. That's a pet peeve of mine. I just thought I'd throw that out there because I hear it every single day. And this could be whether it's Conan or any other talk show host, Conan or Ellen. It could be in the political sphere. It could be Wendy Williams. I know you guys all watch her. I just hate it when people reply that way. I feel like it's rude, but maybe that's just me. John Reed says, let's be clear. Yeah, that's a filler word, transition. I can understand that, but look sounds like so demanding and so like stern. I just feel like it's kind of mean. Vinny says, the only reason I watch DGN is for live coverage. I keep the sound off because the commentators would do better to not talk half the time. Vinny, I hear your opinion, and as I said earlier, everybody look, I'm just kidding. Everybody has their favorite duos and their non-favorite duos, and I can respect that and move on from there. Would you consider different commentators you follow up with? I think there's a lot of things that factor into that. Availability, the practicality of it. Right now we have the booth set up that's taking place in Bend, which works really well, that we have Nate and Val already there, of course. And then Jamie actually goes to them just like I did. Depending on the amount of events that are covered, could there possibly be more than one commentary team? I think that's for sure a viable solution or possibility that could get explored in the future. There's so many things that factor into that. So short answer is, could there be different commentator teams or duos or situations and scenarios? Yes. Short answer is yes. Yeah, that's what I can say. The day I pay to watch disc golf, LOL, I won't even pay to play. You get way more out of the field work anyway, and most courses are free. I hear you, Disc Blaster. I hear you. And just so you know, the courses aren't in some ways, some would say they're not free. They're free to you. They weren't free to me when I spent time and energy to design them. They weren't free to me or to the city when the baskets were purchased and then put into the property. They're not free to the workers that have to go empty the garbage cans or erase graffiti that's then put on said baskets or T signs and empty the garbages. And I'm not trying to get too nitpicky here with you, but yes, you're right. They're free. And what, 90 of the courses on the planet are free, and I hope so many of them continue to be free and accessible for many. But there is also something to be said about pay to play, and you can love it or hate that as well. I'm good with that. But just for what it's worth, as someone who's put in 30 to 40 courses in the last 20 years, I don't consider free to you means somebody else paid for it. That's how I would look at that. Max says, I support Disc Golf Network at $5 a month, but I thought Disc Golf Network production is a lot better than USDGC. So the $20 seems like a little too much, especially because of the $10 extra for the next day. Again, I hear you. I think we have a huge advantage in the sense that we've been hitting our stride, getting into a flow. We've had this consistent team throughout the year. Of course, we've had our hurdles and obstacles and challenges. We'll continue to have those, I'm sure, to some degree. As for Fulcrum, they cover live other sports such as Ultimate, and they do a lot of other things. Disc golf obviously is a different beast, and I do like their product, and I think any challenges or hurdles that they have now will likely get overcome in the next few days, and I would say stay very optimistic and hopeful and excited about what they have to offer. All right, this is silly. Chris Carpenter, thank you for the super chat, as that just came in. Apparently, the super chat does work on my login. I wasn't sure. Somebody had wondered earlier. Christian Carrion also came in with a super chat. So, and just to let you know how not free I am or how cheap I am, if somebody or a club or a tournament was interested in possibly being a sponsor of my nightly recaps, reach out to me, because I'll sell out to anybody, really. Okay, no, I won't. Not anybody. All right, so more talk about Disc Golf Network. We appreciate the support. I'm going to move on from there. But overall, I think I'm going to actually wrap this up. I'm sure some people have tuned in and were frustrated that they're not watching live USDGC action or some form of it. But hopefully you guys enjoy hearing a few thoughts. I would love to know. Please leave it in the comments or put it in the chat if this is something that you'd like to see me to continue to do. I clearly just kind of set up a camera and start babbling. But if this is something you'd like to see me to continue to do, if you like the platform, if you like it on YouTube, I was torn between Facebook and YouTube, and I brought it to YouTube tonight. I'll continue to do this if you guys continue to find value in it. That's really what I'm hoping to do for you. I do encourage you to join us on Disc Golf Network for both our noon show and then our supper show, I guess, as you could call it. And then, of course, I want you guys to be tuning into Fulcrum and supporting them and hopefully consuming all of the action there. Take in as much or as little as you want, but please know that I'm incredibly happy and supportive of all of those as well. So come on, Mike Ramstack, Ram Troll, coming in saying, go buy yourself some Jimmy Johns. I appreciate that, Mike. That is a very sweet gesture of you. I appreciate it. Billy, shout out to Billy coming in from Minnesota. Says, yes, do the recaps. So Billy, I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything you do in capturing photos at so many of the tournaments around the country. I think we're going to probably see more of you. Now I think that you've retired recently. So hopefully we see more of your photos out there. Terry, love you and would like to see this more. And I would love to see you in the booth on Disc Golf Network with Doss a lot more in the future. I appreciate that. Daniel says, you bet. Nice job. And Patrick says, I vote yes on YouTube. Galactic Conquer asked for an after show, which you normally find with our Disc Golf, our Smashbox TV podcast. I don't know. I should work in an after show for one of these nights. But I feel like this whole thing is really a pretty laid back after show atmosphere and environment. Same time tomorrow, Max asks, yeah, maybe I'll try and start it a little bit earlier. Tonight I had a few setup issues and I don't have that brain that Johnny V is to press all the buttons to get things started. So I'm kind of doing this on my own. And I will, I could see doing this tomorrow and maybe even coming in a little earlier, depending on how things work out. Maybe I could even have a guest join me. We could both fit here and give you the single shot. That would be kind of cool to do. Brett says, thanks, love your work. Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it. What is the plan with ESPN? Remind me tomorrow, to talk more about ESPN2 if you have any questions. We talked about it on the podcast last night, but basically nothing's going to change. We're going to have a full-blown live and post-produced championships in next week in Charlotte. And then in addition to all of the normal stuff you know and love that you already expect at every single event, we will also then have a featured piece put on ESPN2 that will come out in November. We talked about that last night, so I appreciate it. After show t-shirts, I would buy that. I love it. Take your water out an hour before you come on. Now, I need to adjust what's going on in this fridge. The fact that it's in the regular section of this tiny fridge and it's frozen, it's rock solid, means there's clearly a problem in there. Look is like, listen. I agree. I absolutely agree, King Heiser. Thank you for bringing that up. I hate that too, when someone says, listen. And then they go on, and maybe they're not ill-willed or trying to sound mean-spirited, or even they're trying to sound aggressive. Even if you say it in the most unaggressive, non-aggressive way, I hate that as well. I hate when someone gives you the command, and then they're going to then take it over from you. Thank you. Look and listen do drive me crazy. John says, do a collab with the disc golf kit. Okay. All right, guys. I could sit and read comments and blather on all night. So I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. Maybe we find something to do for my exclusive Patreon subscribers. That would maybe be one way to go about this as well. But I just can't say it enough. Thank you, guys. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And then hopefully maybe we'll see you right here on my channel again tomorrow night. I'm going to see if I can close this out eloquently. I would not bet on that, but I'm going to try to close this out. And I think if I just click on this button, you may or may not be able to hear me, but like my opening, it's going to be on the solo. Love you guys. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow night. And now exiting, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. This concludes your Wednesday night WNC and USDGC recap. Thanks for joining. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.